Energy Drive. Now is the time. Listen to the pod. At Milwaukee, you'll shine.
Wonder Tag. The supporter is near. We have a tier list. No need to fear.
Oh man, you botched it.
Oh my gosh, I'm not a professional, man. You had practice last week. And guys, just so you know, this time we brainstormed these jingles ourselves. We did not use ChatGPT. No plagiarism to be found. It actually took way longer than I thought to come up with some good jingles, but here we are.
So today we definitely have a tier list for you. We're gonna cover our thoughts going into Milwaukee on the entire meta. We have a little bit of Twitter drama to cover as well. We're not gonna go too in depth, but I didn't come onto the podcast. I didn't make a podcast to shy away from my opinions. I think it's usually a bad idea to comment on anything on Twitter, but I did participate, and there was a little bit of a Tor deck leak. This Mega Absol, Mega Kangaskhan. So we have that to look forward to as well. But to start, I realized that we didn't talk about it last week, so I wanted to take a second to talk about why it's the Wonder Tag podcast. Rowan?
Yeah. I mean, of course, Tapu Lele. Well, I guess maybe I shouldn't say of course, because a lot of people wouldn't have played during, I guess it was 2017, 2018 with Tapu Lele. And so for those of you who don't know, I don't know if you want to pull up a picture of the Tapu Lele GX up on the stream here, but Tapu Lele GX at the time, its ability helped you search your deck for a supporter card. And with this podcast, we're hoping to bring some support to the Pokemon players, the competitive Pokemon players, or casual, everybody who plays Pokemon, and give you guys some support in regards to the meta, what's going on in the game, and yeah, I think that kind of summarizes what we were going for there.
I tried pulling it up, but Pokemon.com has like terrible image resolution. Like you can't even really read what the Tapu Lele actually does here, right? Like I mean, it says it in text on the side here, but like you can't actually read the card. It's kind of embarrassing. We're providing some support, but Tapu Lele also just might be one of the best support Pokemon to ever be printed, right? Not even just in its era. We had Lumineon V, we had Jirachi EX before that, all cards with similar effects searching for a supporter, but this one uniquely also had one of the best attacks in the format, a format where double colorless was legal as well, so it was also very, very strong attacker. So something that was very, very multi-purpose, and I was a big fan of the Sun and Moon era. That was also a big thing for me. I think some of my fondest memories came from that Sun and Moon era. I think was Tag Team part of Sun and Moon? Was that like the same era?
Yeah, I think so. The later half of Sun Moon. I mean, I think the first half of Sun Moon I liked the best with like Zoroark GX, Buzzwole GX. Trying to think what the other premier archetypes. At the start of it, when Drampa was really good, Drampa Garb, Zoroark Drampa, Tapu Lele, or not Tapu Lele, Tapu Bulu Vikavolt. Yes. That format was one of my favorites.
Tapu Bulu, really? That deck was like that's got to be like the Raging Bolt of 2017, man.
Like I didn't like the deck. That was just one of the premier archetypes in the format, which I liked.
Premier. Okay, I mean, I played Greninja, so like I'm a little bit upset about Tapu Bulu being called a premium archetype, because that was like a complete gong show to be playing Greninja against that deck.
Was it even that bad? Shadow Stitching, block the Vikavolt. No.
I mean, the problem was like they had 180 HP. Wait, okay, people are not going to know what Tapu Bulu does. Let me actually pull up Tapu Bulu. Tapu Bulu GX, and I think this was the first one. So the problem with this guy was 180 HP is like a ton when you're doing 40 damage with Shadow Stitching, and then the GX attack just heals it completely as well while they're one-shotting you. And on top of that, like the earliest turn you could Shadow Stitching is turn 3, because you didn't really play candies. You wanted to water duplicates to get 3 more Frogadiers. So this card kind of just ran through. It would take you like 4 turns to even knock out 1. And you had to use Shadow Stitching the entire game, because if they ever set up a second one, it was like over. So I don't know.
Can you trap Vikavolt? You had Countercatcher, right? Or no?
You didn't have Countercatcher. I think you had like one boss. I think you had like one boss or something like that. Although I think like maybe you played Countercatcher at some point. I mean, if I wasn't, I feel like Countercatcher's like pretty good, especially coming from like the format that we play in now, where Countercatcher's everywhere. Because Countercatcher was legal back then too, for sure. At least once Crimson Invasion came out, so like 2 sets later. I don't know though. By the time that like Zoroark was good, um, no one was playing Bulu, right? Like it was just
Yeah.
it was mostly just Zoroark decks at that point. I don't know.
Yeah.
All right,
And then you just played a bunch of E-hammers, I think, and yeah. Anyways,
we have business to attend to. We have a tier list today, so we're gonna get that going here. I gotta pull it up on Trainer Hill here, so bear with me a second. But what are your thoughts going into the format? I heard that you might have had a change of heart when it comes to your play for Milwaukee this weekend.
I mean, okay, I'm not 100% certain yet, but I have had a decent amount of midterms and studying for midterms going on. I was trying to make a pivot to play Guardy Jellicent, and I feel okay about my ability to play the deck, but just not amazing. And so I might just play Pult Dusk again, just because I know I'll play it very well compared to playing Guardy, which I think is a better play, but I'll play it worse. And
Yes.
I think this is actually, I don't know if you agree with this, but I think it's much more important to play your deck well than to play the best meta call for the event.
Yeah, I mean, I fully agree with you. I mean, after all, I'm playing Charizard this weekend, and I mean, Charizard is also not Gardevoir. I did have an okay Gardevoir run, but I'm definitely a better Charizard player, and I mean, I still think the deck is like fine positionally, right? So I've almost always had that mentality, but I think you also have like that same mentality where you kind of play the one deck that you know for a very long time before swapping, right? Like, what is this going to be, like your 5th or 6th tournament in a row with Dragapult? Like,
yeah, I mean, it would like straight
like
Pult,
that.
Pult Zard, Pult Dusk, but yeah, they're all Pult, right?
It's the same thing, right? Like most of your transferable decisions are the same. You have a little bit more emphasis on the cool stuff with Pult Dusk because you can just refuse to shuffle your deck. Whereas like Pult Zard and straight Pult, I feel like you were shuffling your deck more with Arvins and Ultra Balls. But I think, it's very, very transferable, and kind of that was my logic too. Even playing like Pult Zard for the early half of rotation, I was playing a ton of Charizard, and maybe it's a little bit different because I don't have Dusknoirs, but a lot of your comeback mechanics are very, very similar. You kind of have the engine just being a little bit different. You still have Countercatcher, Iono, Unfair Stamp, right? Like options that are very, very transferable. So when you make those decisions, you can kind of autopilot a little bit more. Not necessarily fully autopilot, but the decisions come to you a little bit easier. Like I was watching your YouTube video, and you were saying, in a format where everything is such a taxing matchup to play, to get a few free wins is a nice thing. And at least if I'm not getting free wins, I'm going to be able to rely at least a little bit more on my intuition, as opposed to having to think really, really hard about all of my decisions and potentially making mistakes because of my lack of familiarity with like a certain spot.
Yeah. I think more wins feel free because you've just played that game before, in the sense that you've played that same pattern, right? You're doing the same prize exchange you've done 3 times before. You know what the game comes down to. It's probably coming down to some kind of Iono, as most games do. And then it just feels free because you do your thing, and then you play your Iono, and you see if you win, and then you do that 3 times, and it's not super taxing.
Yeah, I'm with you there. So with that being said, let's hop into our Milwaukee tier list. They have this meta share function as well, so I'm gonna turn that on, but we can just do that at the end. I noticed I've done this like once before, where if you don't put the meta share in, if I like take it away, it'll like reset the whole thing. Oh, it actually doesn't anymore. It used to. I swear it used to reset the entire tier list. You have to do it again before putting the meta share in. All right. Anyways, Dragapult Dusknoir is not going in S tier, so let's start from the top here. Let's start with what maybe should go in S tier. Let's start with our Gardevoir builds. How do you feel about? I mean, you've already talked about it a little bit, but how do you feel about Gardevoir going into this weekend?
I think it's super S tier. I think specifically Guardy Jelly has a very versatile game plan that is even strong into some of the dark type decks of the format. I think specifically Zoroark is a terrible matchup, but the ones that are using Rare Candy, Charizard, Grimmsnarl, you have some Jelly Devo lines. I think the deck has the most neutral matchup spread, I guess. Like it doesn't have too many egregious matchups.
Yeah.
And so that's why I would say S tier.
Yeah, and then for a straight Gardevoir, I mean, I'm kind of with you where the deck still very, very strong. Still probably, if you want to classify them as different decks, probably the second strongest deck in this format. But Gardevoir Jellicent definitely feels like it's kind of the deck and the version of the deck to beat. I think it takes stronger matchups into Goldango still as well, which is kind of my main thing, my main qualm, I guess, as it were. There's a lot of these Goldango Lunatone Slow Rock decks running around, and I know we talked about it a little bit last week, but I've turned at least a little bit of a leaf on the deck because I have a client that's playing it this weekend, and he seems pretty confident on it. We kind of grinded out a list here that's really, really strong, and it actually felt like it was beating Gardevoir very consistently. But Gardevoir Jellicent still is like that tougher version. Like straight Gardevoir, it's not so bad. You can really prize race them super hard, but Gardevoir Jellicent isn't as much about that prize race. It's more so like a positional deck, what resources you have available, and then really taking like a big swing turn in the mid game, end game, and closing out strong. So I definitely think Gardevoir Jellicent gets the edge to me because I think Goldango is still a pretty popular deck this weekend. Even if maybe you don't think it's the strongest deck, people will play it. Like, I mean, we've had formats where the most played deck is just terrible, and I don't even think Goldango is that terrible, and I still think it's going to be, you know, one, 2, or 3 this week. So I think it's worth respecting. So I'm with you. I think we go Gardevoir Jellicent S tier, Gardevoir A tier. That sounds about right.
Yeah, I think that sounds right. But I have some questions for you about Gardevoir.
Okay.
What do you think will be okay, so many questions, but they're all kind of the same question, really.
Yeah.
Which Gardevoir version do you think is going to be played the most? Which one do you think is going to do the best? And specifically, what kind of version do you think Henry Chow is cooking?
Oh man. I mean, if you want to know which version Henry Chow's cooking, I feel like you should go join his Discord, man. I actually have no idea.
Have you seen he's playing like a list with a lot of candies lately on his Discord? I heard.
Yeah, I've actually been seeing, not even specifically just there, but I've seen like a rise in like triple candy Gardevoir with like more going back to kind of what like the Brent 60 was. Like not fully, but like triple candy, one Evo, one Arvin, making space for like 3 copies of Lilies, maybe one less research, but Candy's a lot better in a deck that no longer has to research away all of its resources. So I think you can take that logic for Pult Dusk as well, but I think that means that you're going to see less Evo and you're going to see more Candy, which might be good for you if you're playing Pult Dusk, but into a format with less item lock in general. Like you look at where we were with maybe 40 to 50% of decks playing a Bidoof to now maybe 20 to 25% of decks playing a Bidoof, you can get away with a more aggressive version of Gardevoir. So I think that you're going to see a lot of Gardevoir lists playing that like double, triple charm. In fact, that seems like the default when a new format comes out. People just default back to a Drifloon version of Guardy. We've pretty much seen that like every single tournament, even at Worlds. Like Black and White came out and most people had a Drifloon in their list. So I think that will hold true again here. I do think that Gardevoir Jellicent will probably perform better. Most Guardy players that I think will put in a Drifloon will kind of just like be Gardevoir players that are, you know, okay at Gardevoir, or maybe they played it a little bit, but not like super experienced veterans on the deck. Where I've seen like the general consensus from really good Gardevoir players seems to be like, let's play Gardevoir Jellicent, or maybe some sort of hybrid build with like Fluttermane and then also like 2 Bravery Charms, but not so much focusing in on like Drifloon Triple Charm as much. Although I don't think Drifloon Triple Charm is actually that bad when you think about like how many dark types are in the format right now that are pretty big. Like it's not a terrible card to have against Grimmsnarl or Zoroark. In fact, it's actually a fantastic card against End Zoroark. And then Charizard Pidgeot, like it's still solid. Like no one in Charizard Pidgeot's playing Tool Scrapper or Jamming Tower, so that card actually is pretty solid. So I would say Jellicent more successful, Gardevoir with Drifloon more played, and check Henry's Discord for what Henry's playing.
Yeah, I feel like the Drifloon charm is a good call out. because it is good into Zoroark and Charizard and Grimmsnarl. And also, I mean, some of the other decks I see on here, Ceruledge, which we'll get to, having Drifloon there seems very strong. Having it against Dango can be very strong, especially if they're not playing Tool Scrapper. Just being able to one-shot, although Screamtail can do that too. But
yeah. But I mean, how many people are really going to play Tool Scrapper in their Dengo decks is a pretty big determinant as well, right? Like no one else is going to play Tool Scrapper, which means most of that decision comes down to whether you think Dengos will pack Scrapper. I don't think Dengos do pack Scrapper this week. I don't know what your opinion on that is, but I think that at least the feeling seems to be that Gardevoir Jellicent is stronger, but that also makes other versions of Gardevoir stronger. Relatively speaking, because other people are not going to be teching for charms, right?
Yeah, like so, I would rather be packing an Iron Bundle in my Goldengo deck this weekend than a Tool Scrapper.
Yes,
Jellicent, of course.
Yeah, or even like a picnic basket, right? Or an extra Turo, right? These are all cards that I would rather have because they're a little bit more versatile, as opposed to like a very one-dimensional card. Yeah, maybe you get some usage out of scrapping a balloon or a sparkling crystal against Terra Box or Eevee Box, but those aren't really like fantastic reasons to play a card. Yeah. Maybe there's some Heroescape Zoroark. I want to talk to you about that deck actually. It's somewhere on the list here. Let's actually talk about Zoroark because Zoroark just came off of winning Pittsburgh, and I think the deck's quite good. But of course, it might just be the hardest deck in the format to play, which makes it very, very hard to place, both from a tier list perspective, but also a meta share perspective. So what are your thoughts on Zoroark?
I mean, of course, it won the regional. Liam did a class on it, which I assume will inflate the play rate. That'll help people learn the deck. That being said, I mean, okay, just to kind of put all of my key thoughts out there to kind of give a frame for all my decisions on this tier list, I do think Grimmsnarl is actually kind of good in this meta. I think the Ceruledge deck is actually quite good as well. And I think Charizard's kind of coming back. And I think those are the three major shifts I'm seeing as far as like from people playing online and my own testing and talking to people. And I mean, all three of those decks, I can't really speak to the Grimmsnarl Zoroark matchup. I think it's Grimmsnarl favored. I think Grimmsnarl's getting the Devo off pretty often there.
Okay.
And so that makes me pretty low on Zoroark as a play. Do you disagree with anything I just said?
So the hard part about Zoroark is that you can really make that deck whatever you want it to be. So I've seen this deck running around that's like Heroescape Zoroark with Cornerstone and Triple Monkey. And like from a Grimmsnarl perspective, I don't really see how you're beating that. I mean, maybe you can, right? But like a Cornerstone with a Heroescape and your best attacker is like Corkscrew Punch for 60 and Frostlass damage, I don't think it's actually like a super bad matchup for you. And even speaking to like, if I'm a Charizard player, like, and I am a Charizard player, if I run into a Cornerstone with a Heroescape, I'm a little bit scared. So
yeah,
I actually think the deck is, I think the deck's quite strong, but it really comes down to if the players playing it are capable. Because we know that End Zoroark is strong, but we've also seen tournaments where End Zoroark completely flops because this is like not really a deck that you should be playing unless you are like Liam quality, right? Because you need to be really, really good at the deck to get the full ceiling out of it. And it's very punishing if you make mistakes. So I want to say that it is still like at least a B tier deck, maybe an A tier deck. It depends how, gracious we're being about the tiers. Like if A tier is going to have 2 decks in it, it's probably a B tier deck. But if A tier is going to have 6 decks in it, it's probably an A tier.
I think putting Zoroark on the same level as Guardy feels wrong to me.
That's fair.
And I think it lacks. I think it has a very decent position in the meta, but fundamentally the deck is actually quite weak. Your attacking options aren't amazing. Like you run into a Ceruledge, you run into an Eevee box. Can it deal with an Eevee box? I don't think so.
If you play,
I guess you have the tower.
You play like Rigid Band and watch.
Band.
Actually, I think the Eevee box matchup is okay. I know Liam beat one in his run, but I was gonna say you run into Mega Lucario or Mega Venusaur, you're gonna have a bad time.
Raging Bolt as well, right? It just has some polarized matchups, which I think make it a worse deck.
Yeah, I'm always against playing these decks that are polarized in their matchup spread. It's kind of why I stayed away from Charizard for a while, because Charizard felt like it was actually pretty good, but taking like a 2080 into a Pult Dusk that is 15-16% of the meta felt terrible.
Yeah, not great.
But at least now it feels like that deck has more bullets to dodge, so there's going to be less of it, and it's probably not going to be as focused. I've seen some lists of Pult Dusk that are playing like Air Balloon and Klefki and Arvins and like all sorts of junk. So if I run into that, like I'm feeling okay. It's more so like that very focused Pult Dusk list that's saying like Psyduck doesn't exist, it can't hurt me. Like that's where taking a bad matchup somewhere can hurt. And so when you think about a deck like Enzoroark, how much of like these kind of junk archetypes are there going to be? Well, if you accumulate Saraledge and Mega Venusaur and Mega Lucario and maybe Raging Bolts, and I think Joltik Box is pretty hard for it too. Like,
yes.
I think when you take all those into accumulation, right, you're looking at least a fourth, if not even a third of the meta where you are just hard unfavored and you don't really have very many good options.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. All right, B tier it is. Let's chuck that guy in there. And
are we doing the meta percentages after we do all the decks? Is that kind of what we're thinking?
Yeah, let's do it after, because there's a whole lot of decks here. So I feel like I'm going to start putting meta shares in here very graciously, and I'm going to get to like 130% of the meta.
Okay.
We have all of the Goldango versions, and this deck, or this does not separate Goldango Togekiss from Goldango Lunarok. So I know that Limitless now has its own archetype for Goldango Lunarok, but it doesn't here. So we have to talk about not only Goldango with Togekiss, but also Goldango with Lunarok. So I mean, I've kind of heard your opinions about the Lunarok deck. I'm a little bit higher on this deck, actually. I feel like Goldango is still a reasonable play. Like, I don't think it's terrible, but it's not good enough to put it in Gardevoir tier. Like, I agree, right? You're not putting it in A tier, I don't think. It does pick up a really bad Saraledge matchup from this recent format development, which isn't great. The Lunarok version definitely struggles with Grimmsnarl a lot more. I do think your Pult Dusk matchup, though, is actually not bad. Like, your ability to take a turn 1 prize against Pult Dusk going second with Lunarok is very strong. And I think you mentioned this, but Picnic Basket is usually a little bit more annoying than Monkey is. Is that correct?
Yeah, you can fix a Monkey with 1 Dusclops. You can't fix a Picnic Basket with 1 Dusclops.
Right. And I think all of these Lunarok decks should be playing a Picnic Basket because they don't have Monkey. So I actually think that makes the deck, relatively reasonable, because the rest of the matchup spread is fairly good. And this deck draws a ridiculous amount of cards. So I've had a number of games where I'm playing against Dango and they just slam down boss turn 2, turn 3, turn 4. And, I just can't deal with the aggression. Be a pair drawing a bunch of cards and hitting boss with getting turn 1 knockouts when you get to go second. And the deck just wins a ton of games on that basis, even in matchups where, like, in theory, you shouldn't be beating Saraledge and you shouldn't be beating Charizard that often. But it honestly just does, because taking the first prize card and then being able to consistently boss down threats is a pretty good strategy. So I still think this deck is pretty solid. What are your thoughts on it?
I mean, everything you said makes a lot of sense. The one thing you didn't talk about in that speech is the Jelly Guardy matchup, and I think that alone is just a huge red flag for me. I mean, any deck on this list that can't beat Jelly Guardy or regular. I mean, you said the regular Guardy matchup's okay, which I think it's actually better than, like, I would rather play Dango Rocks against straight Guardy than like Togekiss, Monkey, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I think when you have a bad, I think B tier is a good place for Dango Rocks.
Yeah. Don't sleep on the Premium Power Pro Vitality Band, man. It's actually like, I thought it was bad at first, and then I played it a little bit, and I was one-shotting Monkeys and one-shotting Chius and one-shotting Dracloaks. And I was like, wait, this is actually like really, really good, because a lot of decks in the format are capable of making board states that you can't take a Soul Rock knockout on without it. But when you add Premium Power Pro Vitality, you can almost always take a 1 prize knockout with a 1 prizer in the active, which makes it so almost every deck in the format also needs a counter catcher now. So Like, let's say you're playing Pult Dusk and you make a board of like Drakloak, Dustlops. That's usually really annoying. But you can now attack with a 1 prize or have a bunch of 2 prizes on the board, for example. Oh, I mean, maybe Pult Dusk isn't the best example because you can like knock out Luna Rock, Iono them, but for most decks like Charizard or Sarah Ledge, for example, right, that's very, very annoying. All right.
I do think the rocks are better into Dragapult. Like as a Dragapult, like if I'm playing Dragapult Dusknoir this weekend, I'm definitely hoping my opponents are not playing the rocks.
Yeah, well, I've seen lower stadium counts in those decks. I've seen like 1 Artisan, even sometimes 0 stadiums. So that might be something that you can exploit a little bit more. Although I have noticed that deck doesn't drop Genesect as often. So it's harder to exploit no stadium bump if they don't have Genesect on the board.
Yeah.
So makes it a little bit more interesting. All right, now we have quite possibly the most fraudulent deck, more fraudulent than Dango Rocks. We have Gholdengo Joltik Box. What are your thoughts on Gholdengo Joltik Box?
Yeah, I actually don't think this deck is that fraudulent.
Really?
I think there is some merit to the deck. I think it is a better version of Joltik Box. Let me think about this a little more before I answer. Like, I think you boast some good matchups into. I think the Gardevoir. Well, no, the Gardevoir matchup's not actually that good. The Pult matchup is also not that good. Okay, maybe you're right. Maybe it is kind of fraudulent.
It's fraudulent in the same way that Joltik Box was, though, right? Like it was really good for like, I don't know, 2 weeks. I guess Worlds, right? 1 Worlds and Seniors, when people just are not familiar with the deck and how to play against it. It's very strong when you don't know the exact lines you want to take into the deck. And then the second that people figure it out, you have very, very exploitable flaws. And Joltik Box had that same issue in like May-ish, where it was actually doing quite well for like 2 weekends. It had like a top 8, and then I think it had a few top 16s. And then people just realized, hey, you drop a Bravery Charm on your Monkey Dory and you have a fresh Guardy, and your opponent has no win condition, right? So I think people are also understanding that those similar flaws still populate against Gholdengo Joltik Box. So it is still like probably the best deck to play if you're new into Pokemon, right? Like it's a very, very high floor, but the ceiling on it is just basically the floor, right? Like you don't really have much agency when it comes to this deck. So I'd feel inclined to throw this in like a C tier. I'm reserving D tier for like Mega Lucario and Mega Venusaur, but if those decks didn't exist, I'd be like probably throwing it in the D tier.
Okay. I'm fine with it going C tier.
Okay.
I don't think there's a lot of benefits.
Should we cover Joltik Box in the same regard then? If that's
just toss it in C tier as well.
Yeah. I feel like Joltik Box, you're right. It's just like a worse version of Gholdengo Joltik, which is that's saying a lot. If your deck is already considerably worse than Gholdengo Joltik, you should not be playing it. It like the floor and the ceiling are just the same, man.
Like, I don't think the deck's that bad. Like I think against okay. Like yes, the Gardevoir and Pult matchups are not good. They're not good. A lot of decks have that problem. Like Raging Bolt has the same problem, and I don't think Raging Bolt is a terrible deck.
Dude, it's going in the C tier, man. Surely Raging Bolt's going in the C tier, man. You're not putting
okay. It's going in the C tier, but these decks aren't bad. They get a lot of wins from people not setting up, and I think Joltik specifically is quite strong into a lot of the other decks that aren't Pult and Guardy. Like Dango Joltik, Joltik Box. I think you're feeling pretty good into Zoroark. Your Dango matchup is probably just okay, I would assume. The Solrock is actually probably annoying because you want to make Pikachu, right?
Yeah, the one prize board is gotta be bad for you. Although you know what?
You can make
Dango
hands.
Rocks, you can make hands because Dango Rocks will not convert their board to all Dangos. So you can actually just put 4 on a hands and you will always have 2 prizes. And that's actually a pretty big advantage, I think. So maybe it's not that bad.
Your Grim matchup is pretty good.
Maybe Joltik Box is better than Gholdengo Joltik now that I'm thinking about it. Like your Grimmsnarl matchup's got to be better with Joltik Box because you have Leaves and Galvantula. Your Charizard matchup's definitely better with straight Joltik Box. Your board
and your Zoroark matchup.
Your Zoroark matchup's better. Wait, okay.
Joltik Box B tier.
Okay, I don't know if I'm more inclined to throw Gholdengo Joltik in D tier than I am to throw Joltik Box in B tier.
Okay, I'm down.
Yeah, you got Gholdengo Joltik to D.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
I don't think this deck doesn't even beat like Mega Venusaur or Mega Lucario, man. Like you get folded over by a Toad Scroll and a Mega Venusaur for sure. So yeah, let's go with that. Joltik Box actually might not be terrible. The other decks that you're talking about, I definitely would rather be Joltik Box than Joltik Goldango. Right? Like even like Saraledge. Like Saraledge, I'd rather have the consistent Pikachu twice as opposed to not playing Crispins in my deck. Yeah, okay. All right. You've convinced me that Joltik Box is no longer fraudulent, and you've also convinced me that Goldango Joltik Box is even more fraudulent than I originally thought.
yeah, sounds about right. I'm in agreement.
Okay, let's go into our Dragapult archetypes. We got Dragapult Dusknoir and we got Dragapult Charizard, and for some reason this didn't even give me straight Dragapult.
I feel like that one might actually be the best one.
That's kind of my thought. Okay, actually, I realized. Okay, I figured out if I add a deck, it's going to take all of the decks out of all the tier list. So I'm not doing that. But we can group Dragapult Dusknoir probably in the same tier as Dragapult at least. I feel like.
I think they're maybe close enough. Like I want to put Dragapult A tier. I don't even know if it can go A tier. I think it is still really strong. Like, I mean, I was refusing to put Dango higher because Dango Rocks can't beat Guardy's Jellicent, so, and Pull doesn't either. So I feel like it's got to go B tier as well by the same logic.
Right. Like I'd rather be I think before I'd rather be Dragapult Dusknoir into Guardy, and I'd still rather be Dragapult Dusknoir into Guardy, but into Guardy Jelly, I almost feel like Pulsard is better because at least with Pulsard, you can make the deck in a way that doesn't have as much trouble with Frillish. Like you can play double Evo. You can play double Monkey. Like I have a few students that are playing like the Charizard Dragapult, where it's like 3-2-2 Charizard, 3-3-1 Dragapult. Yes. I think you played a little bit of that, right? But it plays Max Belt.
Okay.
And that deck is surprisingly very resilient. Like double Monkey prevents a lot of the Devo game plans. So like your opponent can't just like leave Monkey damage on your board and set up like Mew EX checkmates as well. And then because the Charizard line's a lot thicker, you get Charizard on the board a lot quicker. So I actually think that Charizard Dragapult deck I prefer over Pult Dusk, and that deck can also play Psyduck too. So like you're not worried about Dragapult Dusknoir anymore. Where Dragapult Charizard used to, like, the whole reason we didn't really want to play it to Worlds was it was bad into Gardevoir and it was bad into Dragapult Dusknoir, right? So if you can fix your Dragapult Dusknoir matchup even a little bit, obviously it's not a full fix, right? But even a little bit where you force your opponent to kill a Psyduck and then you get into Max Bolt Charizard and one shot things, it's actually not too bad. So I want to say that they're both B tier, but I like Dragapult Charizard even a little bit more. Have you tried this version of the deck? I know you had a YouTube video on it, but have you like played any games on it since?
No, I haven't played a Pulsard game in a long time. I was actually thinking about it the other day, but I determined that I think it still just loses to Guardy Jelly.
Probably. It doesn't seem great. It doesn't sound great, but
yeah, I do like that. I think like the Charizard is really good into Zoroark. I think the Charizard is... Where else is the Charizard good? I actually think Pulsard was really, really good into Raging Bolt. That matchup felt very strong. You had candies, you were faster. So, you know what? We could put Pulsard above Pult Dusk. I might have to get my Charizards out of my box.
Yeah, you're gonna have to pack the Charizards. You have no time to test, man. You have an exam in 3.5 hours, dude. You're cooked.
Oh, yo, let's chill. I'll go to the exam. I'll write these. Yo, there's like a 12-hour drive to Milwaukee. That's so much time to figure out the lines and the list.
Okay, I'll send you my list after. I'm telling you, man, Lily's determination in this deck, it's actually really, really strong. You can, it's like way better than research for sure.
No, I agree.
So yeah, we'll chat. But you know, Pult Dusk, we're gonna go. Should we like kind of order them in the tier? So maybe like Dragapult Charizard. It's probably still worse than Dango and Zoroark. Yeah, or maybe like. Or actually, no. Maybe is it like this even? I can't do this properly.
I quite like Dango. Like I actually think I would move Zoroark to between Pulsard and Pult Dusk. Like I would just move that down, and I like that order.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense to me. I think Zoroark is I saw Azula's tier list and he added an A tier. I don't know what the scientific backing for that reason was because I didn't watch his stream. So I at least know that some people are high on the deck.
win the first 5 rounds and just play against Guardy every game for the rest of the regional. That's probably the logic.
That sounds broken. I'm convinced.
Lock it in.
Lock it in. Okay, we have I don't really know the order that we should go here. Everything else here is pretty unrelated. I guess we can just go with Grimmsnarl. We can go in the order it's got it in here. Grimmsnarl is kind of back on the scene after it flopped at Worlds and kind of flopped at the last 2 events, Frankfurt and Pittsburgh, and even Monterey, I think, flopped as well. The deck just was not very good in a Dingo heavy format, but it kind of feels like Dingo is at least going to fall off a little bit. So, might open up the door for Grimmsnarl. You got a good matchup into Gardevoir Jellicent. You got a good matchup into all versions of Gardevoir, albeit I would say that you have basically 0 agency in that matchup. A lot of times it feels like you're just flipping coins and hoping that you didn't prize Grimmsnarl pieces and didn't prize Dark Energies or Air Balloon. And a lot of times it works out, but you kind of just attack and then hope that that's enough. What are your thoughts on that Gardevoir matchup? I think you probably played a little bit more than me recently.
I actually played a lot of this matchup recently as I was trying to learn Guardy Jellicent. I think there is agency in that as the Grimmsnarl player, if you ever attack without 2 Grimmsnarls in play against Guardy Jelly, I think your position becomes really bad really quickly, and you're on a slippery slope to getting Jelly devoed, right? Like say you attack with Grim, and let's say you even have a Morgrim on the bench, right? Yeah. And then the Guardy player just kills the Morgrim. You're like, okay, put down another Impidimp. And then as soon as you're in a position where you have Impidimp and Grimmsnarl, the Guardy player can hit your Grimmsnarl for a lot of damage, even attack with Guardy, like 200 into the Grimmsnarl. And then next turn, Jelly Devo, right? And then no matter what, your Impidimp on the bench is becoming Impidimp, your active Grimmsnarl is dying, and then there's a Jellicent in the active, you can't play items, and you get locked out of the game.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think you got to avoid that.
You got to avoid that. But the best way to avoid that is just don't prize the pieces.
Yeah, which is just fully luck based.
That's the part that's like the worst. But you were talking about this like 3-3-3 Grimmsnarl line, right? Like that.
Yeah, it was.
I like that a lot because if I need to beat Gardevoir this weekend and all it takes is me just putting more copies of my attackers into the deck, it's not a terrible trade-off to just make my Gardevoir matchup significantly better. So
just play less candies. Like you don't need to be candying Grimmsnarl very often, really.
Like when are you candying more than 1 Grimmsnarl? Never, right? I feel like those candies are almost never getting used unless I whiff Evo. And when I play Secret Box, double Evo, triple Arvin, quad Lily, or triple Lily, whatever, I feel like I hit Evo like 75% of the games or something, like a very, very high percentage. And then I just don't need candy. I just make a Frostlass, make a Morgrim, make a Grimmsnarl later. I don't know. Even in the double Frostlass matchups, I don't even really think I need to candy out Grimmsnarl that often. I'm content just evolving into Morgrims and then passing for another turn. It doesn't seem like I'm in a super big rush to make a Grimmsnarl. Okay, so
I'm really high on this deck, actually.
Yeah,
I don't know where you're going to place this.
I was thinking like it probably goes in 8s here because I think that it is favored into Gardevoir. I think Dango's falling off a little bit. I think the Zoroark matchup is fine depending on the version. I think you're 50-50 into Dragapult Dusknoir. That your worst matchup is in C and D tier right now. So, I feel like you're kind of doing okay on that front. I think Raging Bolt's going to fall off. I think your Charizard matchup, I think, is slightly favored as well. Like I don't really see that many holes for this deck, honestly, outside of the fact that you just kind of don't have an engine, right? And that's okay now because you have Lily's Determination and your deck is really good at staying at 6 prize cards.
Yes. All right. A tier seems pretty good to me.
All right. So we're moving on to Raging Bolt. I feel like I've been talking about this deck in like a decreasingly favorable fashion for the last year.
Yeah, like it just gets worse and worse, huh?
Yeah, like it I guess in May it kind of re-peaked, but it felt like it was like insane around this time last year where it won Louisville, I want to say. Like Gedimer won Louisville with this deck, and it was performing really, really well. you were very aggressive. You played 4 catchers or 3 catchers or whatever, and your deck was just like fundamentally actually pretty solid. And then since then, the deck has added 0 cards every single time a set is dropped for the last 5 sets, something like that, since Stellar Crown or Surging Sparks, if you want to include the Chen Pao from Surging Sparks, right? So I feel like this deck is just getting weaker and weaker. What do you think?
I agree. I still think the deck is good. I think we're gonna put it in C tier, I think, but
Yeah.
I think people overrate how bad this deck's Gardevoir matchup is. I think with the 100 HP Curlia, that actually changes quite significantly. Which there is now the 100 HP Curlia, so that's bad.
There is. Come on, man.
And I also think in a format where Gardevoir is so obviously dominating, Raging Bolt actually lines up quite well into some of the decks that beat Guardy. I think it's actually quite good into Grimmsnarl. It's obviously really good into Zoroark. I think the deck also benefits from Dengo Rocks as opposed to Dengo Togekiss, where I think the Togekiss gave the Dengo player more outs, whereas the Rock, I don't think really works. Yeah, like, okay, so, I mean, are you just playing fully one prize board with Solrock, Lunatone, and Gimme Ghouls?
So, okay, so at least the theory is you make a 1 prize board that is Solrock, Lunatone, triple Gimme Ghoul. And then...
So the Solrock dies and you still draw.
Exactly, right? So even if you play Judge, you can only Judge kill the active, right? And you might not even be able to Judge kill the active, because normally your Judge is like Fan Rotom knockout the active, right? So if you can't Hand Disrupt, and their deck is just way better at taking the first prize, I don't really see how you actually are favored into this deck.
On turn 1, you could just retreat. Like, say you're going first as Bolt. Turn 1, I think you could just retreat into Teal Mask. And then turn 2. Okay, maybe this is actually annoying. Maybe Solrock is worse than Togekiss for you, which is bad for the deck.
That was kind of my thoughts.
What you're thinking?
I remember how we talked about the sequencing for like Dengo Rocks versus Dengo Togekiss. Like, it's at best, if the ideal line works out, you get 1 Togekiss flip.
Yeah.
I feel like that routing is also true for Raging Bolt versus Dengo Togekiss. But then you can apply the same logic for Raging Bolt versus Dengo Rocks, except Raging Bolt is not going to have a Togekiss flip. So if everything works out, you should always take the first prize card. And then your opponent needs a 2 prizer in play, and then you just go 2/2/2. So unless there's like some random cornerstone shenanigans or something like that, you have no Hand Disruption. Your Hand Disruption, even if you play it, is completely useless because their deck has a Fez and Luna Rock and triple Dengo. And I don't even think that really talks about how bad the Prime Catcher versions of the decks are for you. Like Prime Catcher,
really dusting reliably.
Yeah, Prime Catcher Solrock, a Hoot turn 1 sounds like an absolute nightmare for you.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, that's actually very bad for Bolt.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
we'll go C tier. I'll stop advocating.
Okay. The second you said 100 HP Curlia, I thought you were just gonna be it's done.
I was gonna give up. No, it's not that bad, guys. Like, sometimes Gardevoir, you just kill their Ralts, kill their thing, and they don't play the game. Fez always comes onto the board. Guardy against Bolt. That's an opportunity.
Dude, you can't even use the opportunity. You're gonna get item locked. You can't use your Prime Catcher.
No. One thing I'll say is with Bolt, I've been liking Double Boss Blood Moon, specifically against Guardy. It lets you actually take 2 on the final turn, because your Prime Catcher is getting used in the mid turns, and you're not going to be able to boss and power up Bolt. So that is one thing I will say about Bolt. If you're a Bolt player, I do recommend Double Boss Blood Moon.
Yeah, that actually does make sense. I think that your best way to win a lot of these like very linear prize maps are going to be just hitting boss turn 1 or turn 2 before you Noctowl even. So
yeah,
I could definitely see that. I think I saw a Dengo Rock like Raging Bolt recently. That was kind of interesting, where they still played Area 0, and it was like the Noctowl-less Bolt, where it kind of like plays catchers, but it's still Area 0, but now your raiding Greninja is just is Luna Rock, and you play a bunch of catchers, you hopefully draw a bunch of cards, and then you have catcher, and that's a very, very strong card when your deck normally is struggling because it can't hit the bench often enough. So maybe catcher Bolt makes a comeback. Who knows? I'm pretty
That's not
comfortable
cool.
with. It sounds better than not doing anything on turn one in a format where you need to do something on turn one. So yeah, okay.
Right.
You
C
said you
tier
were
Raging Bolt.
you said you were high on Sarah Ledge.
Yes. Okay, like relatively speaking, I think this deck is actually pretty solid into Guardy and Dragapult relative to Dango. I
Yeah,
think that the item lock can be detrimental in the early turns, but if you get all your energy in the discard, you just don't really care. You're very you play from the board, right? All your energy are in the
right.
discard.
Yeah,
Um, Same thing against Pult, right? You're getting Iono to 1, you just have all the energy in the discard. You're pretty good into other Dango decks. That being said, like both of you play the Soul Rock, and I think that plays a big part in the matchup as well. Just getting a turn 1 Soul Rock attack, and then you can deny Briar.
yeah.
But
5/5 is a good map when you're the Dengo player, right? You'd rather be on 5/5 than 6/6.
yes, and
Yeah,
then my final big selling point of the deck is that it doesn't have an ability and it's a tear up, which means against Grimmsnarl, you're taking a lot less damage and it's way harder for you to get devoed.
oh, that's actually not even what I was thinking. No, you're totally right.
Okay.
When you said no ability, I was like, oh, yeah, we're not losing a Cornerstone.
I mean, that too, right? That's good
right.
too.
You run into Enzoro or Cornerstone, Heroescape, whatever, right? And you're not just going to lose the second that your opponent benches the Cornerstone and starts attaching, right? And plays Energize or whatever garbage, right? So yeah, I think you're right. I think Sarah Ledge is probably better. I've seen that it's actually been getting a lot of play online as well. And I've played against it a few times online, and I played against it twice online, and both times I've been playing Charizard, and I'm actually 0-2 against Sarah Ledge right now with Charizard. So I can definitely see some merit for it. I do think it's better than Dengo though, based on that logic though. So are we putting it in B tier? Is it high B tier, or is it actually, are we putting Sarah Ledge in A tier, man?
No. I mean, maybe though. I would definitely say it's better than all the decks we have in B tier.
Yeah, that does actually make sense. Like I've been shocked by the rate at which this deck is winning, because I looked at this deck and I said, oh, it's just got Radiant Greninja again, like pre-rotation, and the deck was kind of mid pre-rotation. But for some unknown reason, I don't even know why, the deck just feels better now. Maybe draw 3 versus draw 2 is just that big of a change. Like, I'm not actually sure, but it has that, and now the list play 20 energies, so you always get to 330 and 310 and 320, right? Like that deck would always struggle with getting the one shots, but I feel like that's not actually the bottleneck anymore. It's finding boss and it's getting on the board early. So
Let's go top of B.
I think top of B is probably
yeah.
No, I think top of B is fair. I think it's still like not as fundamentally solid as a deck. So like a random Pikachu EX, for example, you're gonna have a bad time with, right? You don't have very complex routes. You don't have much agency. I mean, not having agency isn't necessarily a bad thing if your deck is just really, really broken, but you probably still like struggle if you hit like a Mega Lucario, for example, right? Where like some of this random stuff is going to be bad for you.
And they can play an 8 prize map against you, and you don't have disruption, and yeah.
I'm always inclined to think that decks can't really be like S tier or A tier decks unless they're able to beat everything at least semi consistently. Or like you run into a Pidgeot control, for example, and the game's over. But top of B tier sounds good. If it lets me swap these two, I want Sarah Ledge at the top there. There we go. All right. I guess I can definitely talk about this one. Charizard Pidgeot. That is what I'm playing this weekend, and I feel good about the deck for once. I haven't played this deck since January last year, or sorry, I guess January this year in San Antonio. So it's been a long 9 months since I've touched a Charizard Pidgeot deck for a major, and I'm really, really excited, and I feel quite good about the deck. I feel like it's stronger than it has been. It has the selling point that I think you are definitively favored into all versions of Gardevoir. And I think for people that are really high on Guardy, that's like a bit of a bold claim, but I've at least felt that way. And a big reason for that is including Shaman in my list. So I've found a lot of games you lose as Charizard Pidgeot against Gardevoir. You get your Pidgeotto sniped before you make a Pidgeot. And if that doesn't happen, you make a Pidgeot, they snipe off your Dusclops and a double Adrenabrain, kill a Duskull, and then they turn your deck into a pile of crap. So Shaman fixes a lot of those issues against the deck, and now the deck is consistent enough under item lock to actually set up. So I think those factors make it good into Gardevoir of all variants. And I think that when you look at the rest of your spread, there's not any hard unfavored matchups outside of Pult-Noir. Pult-Noir is an abysmal matchup still. I'm playing Dusknoirs in my deck, so I will not be playing Psyduck and playing Monkey and trying to beat that matchup. I think it's better to just beat Guardy. But outside of that matchup, the only matchups that I feel at least a little bit uncomfortable hitting are Grimmsnarl and maybe like End Zoroark or Pidgeot control. Like essentially a deck where I hit a Cornerstone plus a Psyduck. Those are the only matchups where I feel genuinely concerned. And Grimmsnarl specifically because I've also seen Grimmsnarl lists that are playing Psyduck. And if that's a thing, like Charizard Pidgeot's probably going to struggle. So I want to say this deck is low A tier, but I also want to hear your thoughts on it because I know I'm definitely biased. I'm very much biased on Charizard.
No, I'm a Pult Dusk enjoyer, I guess you could say, and I don't think the deck's very well positioned, and I think that's amazing for Charizard. I do think the Grimmsnarl matchup is quite bad. I would agree with you that the Guardy matchups are favored. I don't know. I feel like the Guardy matchups are very close. There are a lot of lines. The Shaman does sound good. I think sometimes you even just get your Pidgeot devoed. Yes, there's a missed energy. I think Gardevoir can overload your quick search quite often. You need to be quick searching for boss, but you also want to be quick searching for mist, and you also want to be quick searching for Dusknoir pieces, and maybe they're mind bending you, and now you also have to quick search for a way out of that. So I think that matchup is close, which I think is good enough for the deck to be amazing because a lot of decks have a actively bad Gardevoir matchup. So yeah, I'm happy to say it's A tier.
Yeah,
I might put it top of B as well. I think Grimmsnarl and Guardy are a step above, but we can go top. We can go A. Yeah.
I'm going A, man. I'm sorry, I have to. For the record, that Guardy matchup is very close. But what I really like about any Pokemon deck is when the matchup is close at the highest level, but not close at the lowest level, or like any level between. I feel like I run into 90% of Gardevoir players and they just get stomped, which is a huge benefit. On the ladder at a regional, so I played Pulsar for Portland. I played it for Milwaukee. I played it for Atlanta. And then I was speaking to my Portland and my Milwaukee regional runs. Pulsar, we can look at this retrospectively and say against a proper Guardy list, Pulsar was unfavored into Guardy. But for A, the lists at the time, and then B, the way that players highlighted those lists, I felt like into bad or mediocre Guardy players, I was going to win pretty much every single time. So I can take that same logic with Charizard Pidgeot, except I can say now against the best players in the room, I'm not going to feel uncomfortable walking into that matchup where I had an exceedingly bad record into good Gardevoir players when I played Pulsar. So I feel much better about that as a Charizard Pidgeot player, and I think I can live with one or two slightly unfavored matchups across the rest of the board, knowing that my deck is very, very skillful and takes a lot of 50-50s. In the same sense that Pult Dusk can do that, and then just have a lot of agency to play your way out of situations.
What do you think of the deck's Raging Bolt matchup? Something I'm actually curious to ask you.
Okay. I think it's super, super favored if you play Secret Box, but I'm going to play Max Belt, so it's not as favored. But I think if you have a good turn one, it's nearly impossible to lose. But you have to have a good turn one. If you have a bad turn one and your Pidgey dies, it's very, very challenging. And
if they judge Fan Rotom and you fall behind 2 prizes, do you have a line where you're still winning the prize trade?
You have two lines. You can either just Dusknoir Briar and take 4 in one turn, but that's usually more so out of the question unless you have like a ridiculous turn. It's not terrible, right? Because you can Lily for 8, then Fez for 3, and then Quick Search, and you get most of the combo, but you might just whiff anyways. So then your alternative plan, which is usually a little bit more reliable, is just Chi-Yu, kill a Teal Mask, and then if they go Prime Catcher, take 2, then you just go Chi-Yu, kill a Teal Mask, and then their Prime Catcher's gone. So they have to hit boss, take 2 to win the game, and if they whiff that, then the game's over. So when your deck has struggles with getting around to Chi-Yu, it's actually pretty reasonable to win from behind 2, especially if you get the Iona with it.
Yeah, and it can be hard for Zard to get, or for Bolt to get there for sure. On like a 5 energy boss, kill Zard kind of line.
And if they don't kill your Pidgeot, the game is like pretty much over on turn 2. You just you just go 2/2. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Moving on to we got some Terra decks. Speaking of Noctowl Bolt, we got Terra Box, we got Flareon Noctowl. These decks are pretty much the same deck at this point, it feels like. Terra Box has been playing this like 1 Eevee, 1 Leafeon, 1 Flareon, and Flareon Noctowl has been playing like Torrential Pump, Wellspring, and Bundle sometimes, and cutting the Sylveon entirely. So I feel like we can talk about these decks at least in a little bit different of regard, but I feel like they're very, very similar with how they function at this point.
Yeah, I think again the standout is just that this deck doesn't beat Guardy, and I think it does have a lot of good selling points. The Grimmsnarl matchup seems pretty good. I mean, Leafeon EX seems pretty difficult to deal with.
Yes. Okay, with Flareon Noctowl, with Terra Box, they only have the 50 HP Eevee, so that guy gets like devoed immediately. I'm pretty sure that the Leafeon does not help you as Terra Box nearly as much. Anyway, sorry, continue.
Charizard. I mean, same concept, but it's worse. I think Charizard has a lot more play with Briar and Dusknoirs. Although I think the Torrential Pump is also very strong. Like, how do you feel? I mean, you should probably speak to this because you definitely are more knowledgeable here.
If I get the Shaman down before they Torrential Pump, it's very challenging to lose. If I get Torrential Pumped for 2, it's on the flip side pretty hard to win unless I had a really good board and somehow not Shaman. So the ideal situation is you push up something that you don't care about. So like Tatsugiri or Duskull. And then you have like double Charmander, double Pidgey behind it. But they also play Bundle. So if you don't get a 5th bench Pokemon, which is, you're probably not going to do, then they're either knocking out double Charmander or double Pidgey. And that makes it pretty tough to play behind. So I think you're still like in an okay spot if that happens, but it's essentially Charizard, Iono, and then hopefully the opponent doesn't put a grass attacker together. Which, to be fair, if they're playing this 3 grass energy kind of Terra Box deck, is not very likely. But if they do get it, you'd probably lose the game. It's almost impossible to make 2 Charizards on consecutive turns if you have to play Iono as your supporter card and you don't have a Pidgeot in play. So kind of similarly to Raging Bolt, your opening hand's going to dictate a lot, but against Terra Box, you're on much more of a clock because your comeback potential is definitely a lot worse if your opponent just kind of gets their ideal board state, which is not super hard for them to do.
Okay. So kind of like pretty close matchup depending on the first turn. And then to go down the list, I think you're pretty strong into Ceruledge. You have Pikachu. You seem pretty strong into Dango. Yeah. Because if they Soul Rock, you can Torrential Pump, right? So you're not affected by the 1 prize board. Does Lunatone have?
They're both 110, so you need a boss Torrential Pump. You like getting boss pump sounds gross, right? And you can't bundle because they have both, so that doesn't work either.
Really hard.
That actually is really annoying. You'd rather be Flareon Noctowl, right? Like Flareon Noctowl will have a way better time with that.
Yeah, I think I'm confident in putting this deck somewhere in B tier. Yeah, what do you think about that? And I think both decks, I don't know if I really care to differentiate them.
Based on our Dango discussion, I kind of feel like Flareon Noctowl is better. Like your Grimmsnarl matchup's going to be better with Flareon because you have a thicker Leafeon commitment. Your matchup into Dengo is going to be better with Flareon. I think your Ceruledge matchup is probably a little bit worse because you don't have Pikachu, so that's definitely a factor. But you're probably better off into Zoroark as Flareon Noctowl because Carnelian's broken there. I guess Terrabox has a better time into Poldusk. It's on it. I mean, there's actually very, very harsh trade-offs between the two decks. They definitely struggle in different places despite being functionally very similar. And I think both of those facts, along with them being pretty bad into Gardevoir, although I think for the record, I think Flareon is better into Gardevoir Jellicent because Carnelian is a huge pain. And I'm a little bit biased because I tied 2 Flareons with Guardy Jelly, but the matchup actually felt kind of difficult to navigate if they were playing Gravity Mountain plus Kieran.
They can actually threaten your Gardevoir reasonably.
Yeah, they can threaten your Gardevoir. They had Torrential Pump threats, whereas like Terrabox didn't really have that ability. Even like if they played to Gravity Mountain, in theory, getting Topaz Bolt Gravity Mountain boss is like impossible. So I kind of feel like I feel like Flareon is probably better than Terrabox, but they're both like fairly close. I want to say they're like bottom of B tier. I think Poltdusk is better, but still like in B tier probably.
I put Eeveebox above Poltdusk. No, I think put them both below Poltdusk, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, Poltdusk is still a good deck, man. I feel like for the deck that you're going to bring to the regional, or at least you're telling me you're going to bring to the regional, you're discounting this deck off like super, super hard. You're just like a complete hater. Please, no one's putting the Psyducks in as a result of you talking like this.
Dude, they shouldn't put the Psyducks in. I think if people are playing Psyduck, it should be more for Zard than Polt at this point. Like, Polt just does not beat Guardy, man. Specifically Guardy, like, maybe if everyone's going to miraculously not play Jelly Guardy and they're going to play like Flutter Mane to counter the Jelly Guardies, and I can just play Poltdusk and then actually have a pretty decent deck. I don't know. I'm traumatized, man.
Yeah, hitting 4 Jelly Guardies is going to traumatize me as well. But if I'm hitting 4 Jelly Guardies, I'm not going back to the deck. That's the difference.
I might have to, man. What's the saying? Like the definition of crazy is doing something twice insanity? And expecting a different. Yeah, or insanity is doing something twice and expecting a different result. This time's going to be different, guys. I'm not going to hit 4 Jelly Guardies.
No, I mean, you probably won't. Honestly, you can see more Guardy Jelly at this event, and you will still probably not hit 4 Guardy Jellies.
Yeah.
All right, we got this last one. This is always the hardest one to put on any tier list. Is this deck F tier? Is this deck S tier? Like where does Pidgeot control go? And how does, how many players are going to play it factor into that fact? What do you think?
Yeah, I put some time into this one. I spent like a few hours with like a notepad and going through Limitless and trying to figure out all the matchups. I came to the conclusion that you can't really beat Grimmsnarl, and the deck also has issues with a few specific strategies. Like if Gardevoir goes with just a Jellicent, like if they open Frillish, evolve into Jellicent, and just do nothing but attack with Jellicent, a lot of the control lists I've seen can't actually deal with that.
You have 1 Erica's, right? And that's it. And if you hit the Erica's on something relevant, then you win. And if you don't, the game's immediately over.
Yeah, because you can't recycle the Erica. You can't play Flute. And then also, like, even against less robust strategies, like, I don't know, just like a lone Gardevoir, for example, you still have to hit a Flute or hit a Erica.
Surely you put a Cornerstone in your deck, though, right? Like, surely you just Cornerstone Wall a Jellicent or a Guardian, force them to do something.
Oh, Cornerstone does get the Jelly, actually.
You get both,
okay, so
right?
Then they have, like, what about, like, if they just go Guardy plus a Screamtail, you got to hit Flutes. At least then you can play items. I forgot about Cornerstone.
I mean, hitting a Flute seems better than not hitting a Flute, not having a choice to hit a Flute, right? So
yeah,
I think the way that you go about it is probably just like spamming Flutes early and then just Erica in like 3 times while you like LGM spam or something.
Because if you get a monkey, you do win. You can, well, you also have to play a pretty significant monkey trapping package, right? It's Pseudo, Defiance Vest. You need then a way to heal. Like Shuckle was one of my ways I was thinking. And you also need to be denying the confusion. So you need either 2 Pseudos and a Latias or a Mist Energy, right? A lot of these cards are just reasonable control cards, but
Yeah, and I guess if they go corner or if they go Guardy Screamtail, you probably want to have like your only way to force a win con if you don't hit a flute is just like spamming Sudowoodo Impound on the Gardevoir with a handheld fan until they have all their energies on tail, right? So if they have 2 energies on tail, you need like 3 handheld fans or maybe even 4 handheld fans. So that doesn't sound great.
And
I mean,
4 energies and 4 pseudos.
But come on, man, let us open a monkey blind going game 1, and you're gonna steal a game there, and you're just never gonna finish game 3 if you're in a losing position, right? So if you just hit a flute on a monkey, like you should win, right? I don't think it's that bad.
Okay, so that's okay. Grimmsnarl felt really unsolvable, right? Okay, and then I mean the rest of the matchups are not bad. Also, how you being Zoroark? I guess Cornerstone as well.
You mean I'm sure you can just trap a Reshiram as well, right? They play Air Balloon and Ends Castle and 2. Oh, they play 2 Taros. They ever play Melodic in this deck?
Oh, they play Petrunt.
Oh, they play
Petrant. You can't trap.
Oh, right? Petrant's really annoying because they'll just Petrant spam into their Evil Tall and then they'll just kind of generate poison. They'll just generate poison damage as well. But the Evil Tall swings for like 110 for 3 or something. That sounds really bad, actually.
And they have like double Turo, Palpad, double bot, like a lot of resources. So that was a problem.
Yeah, you also have issues into Charizard Pidgeot if they play the Klefki. If they play the Klefki, I think you get like blown off the board. I'm a little bit biased again, but I think like Dusclops your Pidgeot, Countercatcher your Pidgeot, Iono you to 4 or something like that, kill your Pidgeot. Most of the time will probably just win the game. I'm not entirely sure, but I think that is like a pretty reliable win con. And if they're playing multiple Jets, for sure, that seems a little bit annoying. But you should beat the majority of Charizard lists, right? Unless they're playing that, you should auto win. Beat Serledge, beat Dengo.
How do you beat Serledge?
Wait, do you not?
They play a lot of Jet. They play a lot of Jet energy. I mean, like just trap them enough times they run out of Jets. I guess
probably. I don't think they're playing 4 Jets anymore.
But again, like, what if they go lone Serledge? How ridiculous is that? And just like play research a few times, force you to hit a flute. If you flute, and you have to flute a Soul Rock or a Lunatone, and like as the Serledge player, you can start Ultra Balling for your guys, and then like Carmining them away, and like sometimes you're just not gonna find a trap.
Yeah, that seems reasonable. Maybe you have to play maybe your deck should play a Mimikyu instead of Cornerstone, because Mimikyu will still beat the Lone Guardian, Lone Jelly strat, but also will beat this this strat against Serledge. I don't know.
Yeah. They need Soul Rock.
I don't know about all these theoretical game plans, man. Should we just chalk it up in like a high B and call it a day, or like I don't know. It's been doing well in online tournaments, but it's like so fraudulent in online tournaments because no one knows how to play against Pidgeot control in online tournaments, man.
And you know all their outs immediately, which I think is a huge asset.
Yeah. Oh, open decklist is so beneficial for control. You like just know when you've won the game, so you don't have to play around any ghosts.
Yeah, I think the deck is good. I think we just posed a lot of different problems. I think you can probably find a way to solve some of them, but I don't think you can solve all of them at the same time. And then you also have time as a factor that makes the deck worse. So high B, low B.
Time is bad for it. I want to say mid B. I want to say better than Pidgeot control, or better than the Noctowl decks, but worse than Dragapult Dusknoir. That seems like a reasonable spot. I never thought in my life that I would have Serledge above all of these other decks.
Mm-hmm.
Just not all of them, honestly. only because of some rocks, man. It's just straight ridiculousness.
I will say one thing we didn't mention about Serledge is that Mew EX does kill it for free, so that is actually pretty bad versus Guardy in some situations.
Only if you're losing the trade. Just don't lose the trade, man. Just get a legacy energy on there and call it a day, man. They can't play around that. Well, not with Mew EX. They can. They can play around it with a numerous amount of other ways, but they cannot play around it.
But not with the Mew EX.
It sounds broken. It sounds broken. All right, let's do the percent. on the tier list, and and then we can hop on to our other topics here.
Yes.
Let's go top down and kind of make our way through. So Gardevoir Jellicent, you think it's going to be the best deck, but how popular is it really going to be? I'm not convinced it's going to be like a crazy popular deck. So what do you think?
I think it is. I think Gardevoir will certainly combine to be the number one most played deck at this point. I do, yeah. Okay. I think, and maybe I'm biased because my own opinion has changed. Like for a long time, I was just in denial, like, this Guardy deck's not actually that good. Because, and now I've kind of turned the corner where I do think it's that good, and maybe generally people aren't having that realization, but I think as you watch it win, it's 7th event in a row, right? At some point, the realization has to happen. Like I would give Jelly Guardy 9%, and then regular Guardy like 6%.
Okay, I was actually even thinking like, I think nine for Jelly is fair. I was thinking like 7. The other versions of Guardy, because I don't think it's a clear dominant archetype for Gardevoir. I think there's a lot of players that just don't like Jellicent, and that's the only reason why they're not going to play the card. Not because they think it's bad, because they just don't like it. So I think that around, if we're feeling very, very high on Gardevoir, I think 16% is a very reasonable number for it. I think it was like 14% in Pittsburgh, so I think this is a very reasonable amount for it. We also have to leave like 5% on the meta share for our Mega Venusaur and Mega Lucario. That's sitting there theoretically in E tier below Goldango Joltik Box, for the record. So we can't fully get to 100.
Aim for like 95 here.
Let's aim for like 95. All right, we got Grimmsnarl next.
What do you think on this one?
It's going to be much higher than it was before. I think it was like a 3% deck before, and we're looking at probably at least double that. So I'm thinking 7-8% probably. I still think people just don't like piloting this deck. It's a deck that people just don't like piloting because it doesn't have an engine. So even if it's like a person that's picking decks randomly, they're going to look at a deck with like Lunatone Solrock in it and say, hey, this is fun. And look at Grimmsnarl and say, I'm not drawing cards. I don't have fun. I feel like people oftentimes think like that. And I think Goldango is a great example of that, where Goldango has been like this 20% deck because it just draws cards. It's fun. So I don't think Grimmsnarl holds that same value from the general population, but I do think that good players will probably bring it at a decent click. So I think 8% is a pretty fair assessment. What do you think? You agree?
Yeah. Also like drawing cards, and that's why I don't like Grimmsnarl. So
there you go.
7-8%.
The pro also agrees. Drawing cards is fun. It's not just the new Pokemon players. Everyone likes drawing cards.
Yes. Makes me feel like I have control of the game, you know?
Yeah. Well, speaking of drawing cards, this deck now, Charizard Pidgeot, actually draws cards. That was the big problem that Grimmsnarl had, and Lily's helps with it. But Charizard Pidgeot, I think, arguably even benefits more from Lily's in drawing cards. So I think this deck, I mean, I talk with a lot of Charizard players, so I'm inherently going to think that the deck is upwardly biased in terms of how much meta share it will have. But it has been reasonably popular online as well. So I'm inclined to think this deck is like a solid 6 to 7% still. I know that's like a pretty big jump from where it was, but I want to say that it is like a reasonably played deck this weekend. Like,
I think reasonably played. I would go 5. I think a lot of people are hesitant to pick it up. Like, I feel like Charizard hasn't been really good for a long time now. I think a lot of people who aren't like longtime Charizard enjoyers, including myself even, are kind of hesitant. Like is Duskbolt just going to randomly still be 15% meta share? Maybe, right? I don't think so, but I don't know.
Maybe probably still 10, right? Like it's probably still a reasonably played deck. I mean, if you're playing the deck out of comfort, right? A lot of other people are going to play the deck out of comfort. It's still like a comfort pick, and decks that have been far worse have had far more meta share, right?
Yeah.
Roaring Moon in Paradox Rift format.
The ancient Pokemon, man, just terrible.
Just the worst, man. All right, let's chalk it up at 5. I think that's fair. Especially because I'm looking at a lot of decks here that need to get devoted some meta share, and I'm getting a little bit nervous as I go down and I have to give Goldango a percentage. So We were talking about Pult Dusk though, so let's kind of jump over to that as a deck that is going to be more popular still. My initial impression was it was around 13-14 before. It's probably going to fall off a little bit, but it'll still be played. It's still been played online at least a decent amount. I want to say 10% is a fair forecast for the deck. That seem reasonable?
I want to say even lower, but I feel like you're gonna call me out for meta manipulation for saying it's lower.
Oh, I mean, you've already been manipulating this entire episode, man. Like,
dude, the deck is not that good. Please do not play Psyduck.
It's terrible, and I'm still gonna play it. I mean, okay. Yeah. I can see the logic, because if I, like, let's say I played Pittsburgh, if I played Charizard to Pittsburgh, which was my second pick, I would have been screaming the same sentiment that I should absolutely not be playing this deck, and I'm still playing it. But the difference is I actually didn't play the deck, man. Like, if you're going to play the deck, surely the deck is actually okay. There's so many Dragapult Fiends.
Well, I don't know that I am going to play it. I don't know.
All right. I'm going to put it to 9 so I can add an extra percentage to Dragapult Charizard, which is what you're actually going to play this weekend, right?
There we go. Yeah, send me the list after this.
I got you, man. All right. 9% for Poltnor. That is that is a reasonable amount. All right, let's go back over to the top of B tier. Our boy Saraledge. This deck's broken. This deck is a Raging Bolt-esque deck where people will just pick it up for sure because it's fun, because it seems strong, it hits big numbers. It actually got a huge buff. I think this deck is solid. I think this deck is going to see a decent amount of play. Not Dango levels of play, but I want to say this deck is also, gonna take a decent amount, like at least 6%, 7%. Yeah, like more than Charizard, probably less than Grimmsnarl, less than Gardevoir, less than Dragapult. That's kind of where I'm feeling. What are you thinking?
Like 7 for sure. With the notion that this is going to eat away from the Goldango and Raging Bolt meta share.
Yeah, the same types of players are going to be attracted to this deck for sure. So I agree with you there. So let's go 7 Saraledge, and then now let's talk about Dango. Dango was, between the two variants, I think about 20% in Pittsburgh, 23% at Worlds. We're taking away some from Saraledge, but probably not all of it. So let's start with the cumulative, both versions of Dango. Actually, all 3 versions of Dango, right? You got Togekiss, you got Rocks, you got Goldango, Joltik Box. What do you think all 3 are going to be, and what do you think the breakdown between the 3 is?
I would expect the Rocks to be the most popular version.
Yes, I think that is the best version.
I might go for a total meta share 15.
Okay.
And give me 8%. No, give me 9% Rocks.
Wow.
4% Togekiss. 2% Joltik Dango. I feel like I'm underrating the Joltik Dango play rate, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, we got a D, but come on, man. Also, I love the names for Joltik Dango. Whenever I talk to someone, they always have a different name for the deck. So I've heard like Joe Dango and just like Django. It's just like the most ridiculous deck names, and I just laugh every time I hear someone say Joe Dango because it just sounds like the funniest deck name, man. Like, it's so Joe unserious. Dango. Like you already know that you're unserious if you're calling your deck Joe Dango, man.
Yeah.
So unserious.
You're going for fun.
Yeah. I think you're probably about right though. I think Joltik Dango maybe takes a little bit more. But
yeah, you want to inflate it? Give it like 4. 3.
Is that going to mean that that Dango just kind of retains more share though? I don't know. I think that it's probably a little bit less Rocks, maybe like 7 or 8% Rocks, and then 2% Togekiss and 4%. Right, let's go 10% total for Dango, and then I think 5 or maybe let's say 4. So let's go 11 and then 4. I feel like that's more reasonable, right?
Yep, I'm down for that.
Okay. Well, Dragapult Charizard, we're high on this deck, but surely this deck's not getting played. Like, it is
negligible.
It's a negligible 2% deck, probably tops. Like, I really like this deck for a while. I'm not playing this deck. I still think it's a good deck. I have some students playing it. I don't know if you've watched the juniors meta, but the juniors meta has been absolutely rampant with Dragapult Charizard in the last couple months, and I'm looking forward to some more domination. I think the deck's good, and again, the biggest problem that it is just a bad Guardy matchup, really. So, I mean, in the junior division, you don't have to worry as much about Guardy players. Even in seniors, you don't even really have to worry about Guardy as much. So that deck actually really does thrive in those meta games. So Going back to the Masters metagame, I think it's like a negligible, maybe 2%, but I don't think that this deck is bad. I don't think you should write it off, even though the Guardian matchup's not that great.
Yeah, we can call it a 2. Deck's good. Not going to see a lot of play. Yeah. I think Zoroark kind of falls in a similar tier, but with more play, seeing as it did just win a major. I might call I might call 5. I think 5 is like pretty high for a deck like this.
5 seemed like a lot, man. It was like a 1% deck before. I think 4 is got to be like a reasonable level. Although I am looking at us kind of filling up the rest of the chart here, and we're only at, if I put a 4, we're only at 66%. So
that's fine. We can just like add 1 to all of them if we're too low.
Yeah, that seems like the best solution. All right, let's go over to Pidgeot control. I think this is actually more than 1. I would have said 1 if you asked me a week ago or 2 weeks ago, but I think now it's going to be like a 2. What do you like? Maybe 2.5.
I mean, I think it's going to be higher than it's been in the past. I don't know, year or whatever it's been since this deck's actually been good.
Yeah. I think
I don't know. I feel like it's increasing from like a 0.5% play rate though to a 1. Maybe it goes to a 2.
It was a 0.3% deck on labs, but when you look at other decks, there was a lot of other decks that were actually Pidgeot control decks. So I think it was probably like 0.6 or 0.7%. So yeah, so 2%. 2% sounds reasonable. All right, it sounds cool with me. We got our Noctowl decks here. I think these decks are still relatively popular.
Yeah.
In accumulation, anyways.
More so Terra Box.
Yeah. What do you think that's at?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's going to be more popular than Zoroark. Yeah. I would give it like a 5. Maybe that's even low. Like maybe give it a 6 and Flareon a 3.
6.
You think that's too high? You want to go for 5?
I think that you're right that the total is 9, but I think that Flareon's actually going to be more played than that. I think it's going to be like 4 Flareon, 5 Terra Box.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah,
I'm down for that.
Yeah, that sounds good.
What do you think the Raging Bolt play rate is going to be? I mean, we've been pretty low on the deck, but surely. Has there been a regional where Bolt was below 10% in the past year? I feel like no.
No, not really. I think it's still like a solid 8, right? Probably something like that. Raging Bolt is just consistently played no matter what, right? So is it going to convert well? No. Is it going to be played? Yeah, I think so. Like you even kind of made some points for Raging Bolt that made me think at least a little bit more on whether this deck is terrible or not. So I think Raging Bolt players are probably not thinking too much about what they're playing, so meta changes aren't really going to impact their deck decision as much.
All right,
so let's chalk it up to a proper 8% here. We're
getting close to 100. This is pretty good.
Yeah, last we got Joltik box here. I mean, maybe we're saving a little bit more for the jank, but that's okay. I actually don't think we really need to adjust any of these numbers.
No, I think we're good. Give Joltik like a 3.
Yeah, a solid.
I think it's pretty low.
Solid 3. Yeah, I think that's pretty reasonable. Yeah, I mean that gives us a solid 88%. We got some space for our megas. We got some space for some random jank. Ho Armarouge, whatever it is. So
I'm excited to look at this next week or like on Monday or whatever. And I feel like we've made a pretty good meta forecast here.
Yes, I feel good about this. I feel very solid about this. Well, with our tier list done, that gives us a nice little transition to our second topic of the day. We have a leaked deck from Tord Reklov, and I have some input on it. So I'll switch over. I got the tweet. I got the tweet here, and
I know. Well, I know kind of generally what happened, but you want to do an overview for me and everyone watching of like what originally happened?
Absolutely. Okay. Yeah, so the tweet reads, "No, if you found the worst kept secret deck of all time, you are not obligated to not talk about it or post about it. Like, I knew about the list multiple days before the marketing campaign even started. Harassing people for posting a list almost everyone has is weird." So this is is interesting, and it's interesting because this is not the first time the situation has happened, but probably the first time that the situation has been like directly talked about. So I mean, there's a lot of MetaFi groups. There's a lot of paywalled content with deck lists, and people share these deck lists pretty frequently in like secondary private messaging, right? So you have Discord servers, you have like just DMs, group chats, whatever, right? And people will take a MetaFi list and kind of post it and chat about it with their buddies. But this is a unique situation, because essentially what happened was someone went to a locals, kind of went 5-0 with the deck, posted their local result, totally fine, right, with the deck, and it's kind of like this Tord deck that he kind of put behind his MetaFi group paywall, right? And the question ends up being, is this ethically correct? Is this morally a bad behavior? Well, I mean, posting it, definitely not, right? He kind of admitted he didn't really know it was Tord's deck. He'd kind of just gotten it from a group chat. Like I said, this is kind of the stuff that happens. But I think the part that becomes more morally challenging isn't whether that this specific person posted it, but whether it's kind of correct to do it knowing that that is the case, right? So I kind of think about it as not necessarily intellectual property, but something that someone has put in a lot of time and effort to kind of give people that are supporting them content for. And so it's kind of, to me, like, let's say, Alex Szymanski has a TerraBox article. If I was to like copy and paste his entire TerraBox article into like Twitter, like a public forum, right? I feel like that kind of falls into pretty like morally incorrect behavior. And while it's not exactly the same, it's more of like a gray area because, it's a list. It is still kind of the same thing in the sense where it's information that's being shared that someone has kind of put behind a paywall with the intent that it will be going towards those people. So, you want to share it in your DMs and talk with people, right? Sure. I mean, no one's stopping you from doing that, but then taking that and putting it into like a public forum where everyone can see it, that effectively removes the value that anyone has now to kind of join that MetaFi group, or even for like the actual creator of it, right? So no, it doesn't matter that it's Tord Reklov. It doesn't matter that it's like this really, really good Pokemon player. But I think just from like a, moral perspective, my perspective, at least on it anyways, is that putting anything out there of that kind is kind of like a little bit disrespectful to the creator, regardless of who it is. It might even be like someone who has like one person and he is kind of giving it to that one person, right? I want to hear your thoughts on it. I'm rambling a little bit, but I wanted to hear your thoughts on that.
Disrespectful is the word that was going through my head while you were talking. Yeah. And that's what I think. I think it's just super disrespectful to someone who's clearly put a lot of time into creating something, really. And I think like if you don't know that it was paywalled content, like it's not a big deal that it was shared. But I think when it comes to like explicitly taking something from a paywalled content, posting it online, I would even go as far as to say like sending it to your friends in group chats, I think is also disrespectful. I mean, there's a certain level where like it's going to happen and that's fine. But yeah, I think just really disrespectful.
Yeah, like you expect that when this kind of stuff happens, like someone will play it in an online event, right? And when it's played in an online event, it's kind of like out there and that's totally fine. In a sense, it is like it's public information, right? So that kind of, when you do post something like that, you expect that to happen. But it's something that you have to dig for, right? Like you have to be like specifically looking for that kind of stuff and new ideas and cool ideas to find that, as opposed to kind of just pops up on your Twitter timeline. So I think it really comes down to the intent, just like anything in life. Most of what happens is about the intent behind the action, right? So if your intent is just to leak a deck list that someone's put a lot of time into, then it definitely ends up being disrespectful, right? It's no different than if you were working on a deck with a friend and that was kind of your guys' deck list, and then you leaked it to someone else that wasn't supposed to have that deck list, right? So I think you're right. Like disrespectful is probably the right word, but that's definitely just my 2 cents on it. Wanted to hear everyone's thoughts on it too. So if you have any input, feel free to drop it in the comments. I'm more than happy to start a friendly but not unfriendly debate, and would be happy to chat about it. That was all I had to say about it, though. I'm not sure if there's anything else you want to talk about, or if we can wrap it up.
I think we can wrap up. I'll wish all of our viewers good luck in Milwaukee if they're attending, or any other events that might be playing. League Cups. I think there's a regional going on in Latin America as well.
Yes.
And just thanks everyone for watching, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah, and don't forget to comment whose jingle was better. I'm pretty sure it was mine.
True.
It definitely was mine.
No. They're both bangers, bro. I think mine was kind of banging too, though.
It was pretty good. The execution, though, man, it was bad. But thank you everyone for tuning in. No. Thank you everyone for tuning in. We will be back next week. If there's anything you'd like us to talk about, feel free to drop it in the comments. And thank you so much for your support on the first episode. We really appreciate it. And take care, guys.